Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportssc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
You're damn right. I think we're a top 8 national seed. I'm gonna sit up here and say we don't deserve it. You kidding me? No, we've done a lot, and we put ourselves in a good spot.
All the guys on this team have put me in a situation where I could, win this award, and obviously it's just an honor. There's a bunch of great players on this team, and obviously in the ACC, so to win an award like that is pretty amazing.
Well, if you believe Chad Holbrook and you believe some of the national pundits, as of today, USC is a national top 8 seed for the NCAA baseball tournament. But we all know these projections are written in pencil and not in blood, and they can be erased very quickly with a loss here or there. South Carolina not exactly in the position of losing a game or two in Hoover and still being in that top 8. So they've got work ahead of them, and Clark Schmidt will go to the mound tomorrow for the Gamecocks. We just got that confirmed from Andrew Kiddick, USC's SID for baseball. And Jerry Myers will join us in the second hour to tell us more about the decision to go with the number 1 starter against Ole Miss. Ole Miss a winner today over Georgia in its game at the SEC tournament. Vanderbilt an easy winner as well. So those two advance from the one-day round into the main draw. Welcome, Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a Baseball Tuesday around the state and around the country. Tournaments galore everywhere. Phil Kornbluth on the way to Hoover, stopping by my secret hideout in Atlanta, our secret studio here in the Peach State. K-Mac and the professor, Tom Hayes, back at our studios in downtown Columbia, keeping an eye on all the scores. Guys, we got baseball everywhere to talk about now.
Well, the key point I was thinking about, K-Mac, is the fact that if you're South Carolina, what happened in the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee wouldn't be surprised if South Carolina was undefeated and they say, well, they've got a chance. They get in.
I actually saw some people, some Gamecock fans, on social media saying, I'm not believing anything after being told after a win at Arkansas in basketball that we were a lock for the NCAA tournament. So they're taking a very cautious approach. And you're right. If they go 0-2 and barbecue in Hoover, I think they could fall out of that top 8 national seed, depending on what happens around the country. They are not set in stone there. If you're a top 4 seed, yeah. But if you're 7 or 8, which is where they're projected, 6, 7, or 8, you can fall out of that thing with a bad performance in your conference tournament.
I can see LSU right now eyeing on going through the tournament and taking a national seed.
The eye of the
from
tiger
somebody.
on the
Yes.
Gamecocks national seed.
Well, let me rest everybody's nerves right now. I will guarantee tonight that South Carolina will be in the NCAA tournament, and there's no question.
Yeah.
And I will guarantee tonight that they will host a regional. But what I can't guarantee is the super regional status, the national top 8 seed. That is the one thing you can't guarantee. We'll go over some of those projections. We'll update the scoreboard. We'll take the phone calls. Got a great show tonight here for you on Sports Talk. Be right back. Okay, we're back at Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network, presented by Future Scholars Palmetto Baby Grant Program, coming up Sunday the 29th. That's 529 Day. All babies born on May 29th are eligible to receive a $529 college savings grant. To apply, visit scpalmettobaby.com. Future Scholar is administered by the Office of State Treasurer Curtis Loftus. All right, let's catch you up on what's been happening today. First, the college baseball tournament action in the SEC tournament in Hoover, Alabama. In the books, elimination games. Vanderbilt beat Missouri 7-0. Obviously, the Commodores got some great pitching. Of course, Missouri, not much of a threat in any form or fashion, though they did throw Tanner Houck today, their top pitcher. He went 6 innings. He gave up 4 runs, 2 earned. 2 errors behind him didn't help. 4 runs, 6th inning for Vandy, kind of opened the door for them. Patrick Raby went 6 innings, allowed 2 hits, and 2 other pitchers worked for Vandy as well. Colin Snyder went 2 innings, and Donnie Everett went an inning. So Vandy improves to 42-15 with its win. Then Ole Miss followed up with a 5-1 win over Georgia. Georgia scored first in the first on a home run, but Ole Miss came back with 4 in the fourth, a run in the fifth. Not many hits, 5-6-0 for Ole Miss, 1-7-2 for Georgia. Ole Miss did use its number 1 starter, Brady Bramlett. He went 4 innings, allowed 3 hits, an earned run. He walked 1 through 57 pitches. They used the 3 other pitchers in the game. Brady Fagel, he threw 38 pitches over 3 innings. Will Stokes, 17 pitches, and Wyatt Short, 12, each one an inning. I'm mentioning this because, of course, USC will play Ole Miss tomorrow at around 2 o'clock Eastern time, and this kind of tells you how much pitching Ole Miss used today. Guys, you look at it, and we'll ask Jerry Myers his take, but, of course, Bramlett won't pitch tomorrow, but they didn't burn up a lot of pitching in this win today over Georgia, so Ole Miss has got to feel like, from a pitching standpoint, having to play the elimination game, it came out of it okay.
Yeah, he's going to Ole Miss will start David Parkinson tomorrow. He's 4-3 with a 2.70 ERA. Just 7 starts, 20 appearances, and that's who the Rebels will go with. And I think he has ties to the PD area. I saw Lou Bizjack tweet out something that he played for Florence Darlington Tech at one point and made his way to Oxford. So he'll be starting tomorrow against the Gamecocks.
Okay, and again, Jerry Myers will join us after the top of the hour. It'll be Clark Schmidt going for the Gamecocks tomorrow. Not messing around, going to go right with the top of the pitching order, see if they can get their first win in Hoover since 2012. I believe that 3 years in a row, the Gamecocks have not won a game in the tournament. We all remember last year they were one and done, so they're trying to break their hex in Hoover, see if they can get on the winning side of things for a change in the SEC tournament. Now, coming up here at the SEC tournament tonight, you have got Kentucky and Alabama. They're actually underway. They're in the second inning, and they are scoreless. And then the last game of the day is Tennessee and LSU. So Vandy moves on to play Texas A&M tomorrow. Ole Miss moves on to play USC Pro. And, you know, A&M and USC, the higher seeds, and they get the break of not having to play that first day. Nobody wants to play that first day. But now you look at it, both of the teams that got the first day off are facing dangerous opponents. I mean, Texas A&M, the SEC regular season champion, knows it's going to have a battle with Vanderbilt. And certainly, even though USC swept Ole Miss in Oxford very early in the season, they know the Rebels are a very good team, an NCAA tournament team, a host team, maybe even a national seed, who knows. And it's not going to be easy for the Gamecocks tomorrow by any means.
Well, I think probably if you're Texas A&M, what you want to do is you want to bite the bit, because you got the of your first outright SEC title on the last day of the season, and they got to be ticked. It'll be interesting to see if they try to play guerrilla ball tomorrow on Vanderbilt, which is something you can't do. This is the interesting thing about Texas A&M. When they get the bats going, they can absolutely destroy you. However, Vandy's pitching all of their pitchers can throw hard and they can change speeds. So if Texas A&M comes into this game over aggressive at the plate, they can look silly tomorrow, and Vanderbilt can make a run in this tournament.
Yeah.
It's about, I would say, K-Mac, 6, 7 teams this tournament can win the tournament, in my opinion.
Yeah, no doubt. And Texas A&M was one of the best teams. And I saw Florida and Texas A&M, and Florida's very impressive too in their own right. And they have great pitching, and there's a reason why they've been the number 1 ranked team most of the season. But Texas A&M, they're so experienced, and they're dangerous up and down that lineup, and they're all juniors and seniors, and they can hurt you in a lot of different ways. And that's the team that I still think has the best chance to make noise, maybe not in Hoover, but going forward into the postseason and towards Omaha.
And I guess, Corn, that thing I'm thinking about right now with South Carolina, obviously you want to play your game, but you got to think about this ballpark and what is it? Is it a hex, or is the fact that now you've got your bats going? Will Chad Holbrook decide in certain situations, because of this ballpark, we're going to try to play some small ball, get some guys running, try to speed up the pitcher, get him off balance, try to get more fast balls for some of our hitters. It'll be interesting if he strategizes his offense playing in this ballpark tomorrow.
Yeah, it's not as cavernous as it used to be, because remember last year Alabama played their home schedule there while their park was being refurbished, and they moved the fences in some, and they've left those fences there. So it's not like it used to be going back year before last year when it was really big. I think maybe you got a little bit better chance on getting the ball out now than you did going back before then. Hello, Sugar. Hi, good to see you. In the ACC tournament. Well, that's my little girl just walked in, so I had to give her a hug. Georgia Tech shut out Boston College 6-0, 6-13-0 for Georgia Tech, 0-9-0 for Boston College. Georgia Tech improves to 36-20, BC 31-20. And who knows? A lot of people think BC is going to get into the tournament. We shall see. Georgia Tech had 3 home runs on the day, so ball was carrying out well for them. And as far as on the mound, they used a couple of pitchers. Brandon Gold went 6 2/3 innings, allowed 7 hits, and Matthew Gorst went 2 1/3 and allowed hits. So Georgia Tech, which is really an underachieving program right now, I mean, they've got a great reputation, but they haven't been the Georgia Tech of years ago when they used to go regularly to the tournament. To the NCAA, to the World Series. Yeah. But that's a good win for them, and they'll be in the NCAA tournament. And then the other game of the day, it's Wake Forest beating Duke 4-3. Now the question is Duke going to get in? 33-22. They haven't been in the tournament since 1961, in the NCAA tournament since 1961. 33-22. Wake Forest is 33-23, and K-Mac, you'll be in Durham moving forward. And Wake Forest moves into the pool with Clemson and will play Clemson on Saturday.
Right. Yeah, the pool play format, which I have to admit, it has slightly grown on me. Slightly. I don't hate it anymore. I just kind of hate it. But I do see the benefits, especially if you're Clemson right now, you're guaranteed 3 games. So even if you lose to let's say worst case scenario, they lose Thursday and Friday, they get a winnable game against a Wake Forest team that'll be on its 4th pitcher at least by then, and definitely their 4th starter, but deep into their pitching. So they get a chance to get that extra win, get a little momentum, some extra practices. So a pretty good scenario for Clemson, and you don't have to burn up a bunch of pitching.
The line score, Wake Forest, 4 runs on only 5 hits, 1 error. Duke, only 3 runs on 13 hits. You talk about leaving runners on base. They did that. Wake wins at 4-3. We'll be right back. Okay, we're back at Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network here on a Tuesday night. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we're going to learn more about the new Clemson basketball transfer, David Scara, 6'8" forward from Valparaiso. His former high school coach, David Maravilla, from Don Bosco Prep in Indiana, is going to join us to tell us more about him as a player. Let's continue with the baseball rundown. The Big South tournament taking place over in Lexington. Liberty, Jim Toman, back in his old stomping grounds and stomps on High Point 6-1. Longwood beats Winthrop 8-6. Radford and Coastal Carolina just getting underway in their game, and coming up later on, it's Presbyterian playing its first ever Big South tournament baseball game. Presbyterian taking on Gardner-Webb. Southern Conference, one game today in Greenville at Fluor Field. It was a dandy. The Citadel keeps its season alive as the Bulldogs get a RBI triple, bottom of the 10th, from Brett Hines, and they beat VMI 3-2. So the Bulldogs are 17-40. They advance to face number 1 seed Mercer at 12:30 tomorrow. Mercer 35-21. Not good news for the USC women. In the opening day of match play at the NCAA Women's Golf Championships, for the longest time, they were leading, but you got to play all 18 holes, and South Carolina ended up falling to Stanford 3-2 in the match play quarterfinals. So it went like this for USC. Caitlin Dambaugh, she defeated her opponent, Sierra Kirsten, 1-up. Sarah Schmelzel lost her match. 4-3. Ainhoa Lara won her match 4-3. Marion Vasari lost her match 2-up. And Isadora Nielsen lost her match 6-5. So a 3-2 loss for USC. The others winning today, UCLA, Duke, and Washington. So a tremendous season for the USC women's golf team comes to an end with a 7th place finish in the tournament. Couple of basketball items to tell you about. The ACC Big Ten Challenge, and Clemson will be involved in this event November 28th, November 29th, and November 30th. In fact, the Tigers are going to be at home to take on Nebraska. The Tigers and the Cornhuskers are going to play at the newly renovated Littlejohn Coliseum on November 30th. Okay, the rest of the matchups, Syracuse at Wisconsin. Let's back it up. On Monday, November 28th, Florida State and Wake Forest at Northwestern. Then on Tuesday, Syracuse at Wisconsin, Michigan State at Duke, Pittsburgh at Maryland, Iowa at Notre Dame, Georgia Tech at Penn State, and NC State at Illinois. And then along with the Clemson game on that Wednesday, Purdue at Louisville, North Carolina, Indiana, Ohio State at Virginia, Virginia Tech at Michigan, and Rutgers at Miami. Not hardly a bad game in the lot there, guys.
No question.
And we're back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network, here on a very busy Tuesday night. Good to have you with us wherever you're dialed in. Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, the professor, Tom Hayes, all together. Last night we had the news of David Scarra, 6'8" forward, transferring to Clemson from Valparaiso. Let's welcome into Sports Talk his coach from Don Bosco Prep in Crown Point, Indiana, athletic director and assistant coach, and he helped to recruit David to the prep school. Coach David Maravilla is joining us now. Coach, how you doing?
Good thing. How are you?
We're fine. Thank you so much for joining us for a few minutes to tell us more about what Clemson is getting in David Scarra. What things about him really stand out on the basketball floor, in your opinion?
Well, David is a 6'8" combo forward who guards anywhere from 2 to 4, and he's not your single forward in that he's not a guy who's going to just sit behind the 3-point line and come off screens and catch and shoot. I mean, he's really more of a driver, defender, playmaker. And a guy who's become a better shooter over the last few years. Had some big games this year against great competition, obviously a big 3 in the NIT semifinal against BYU. But he's a guy that is what I would just, blends in with his team and does all the little things that winning teams need guys like him to do. So, I don't know that you can really look at his stats necessarily and come away saying, wow, this is a great get for Clemson. But, the one thing I will say, every team that recruited him through this process, and we're talking a number of ACC teams, including obviously Georgia Tech we visited, but Florida State, Vatech, Michigan. I mean, these are all winning programs that coaches that value the intangibles that you need to have from players to help you win games. So I think David brings that to the table, and I think Coach Brownell recognized that, and then he had him on campus, and they had a chance to watch him live, and everything was pretty clear at that point. So we feel like it's a great fit for him. He's excited, and I know Clemson is excited as well.
Coach Brownell is making a great use of the transfer market now, which is becoming extremely popular. He's now got 5 former D1 players from other schools on his roster. How much of an impact was that on David's thinking, knowing that he was possibly going to go to a place that was used to taking transfers and giving them a second chance to develop their career?
It was really important. I think the success the young man had, and I don't remember his name, but from San Francisco, who had a good follow-up year at Clemson, and then I know he's coach has recruited another young man out of Robert Morris, and then the big guy, I believe he was out of Texas A&M. Yeah, that played into the equation. There are some programs that value that market a little bit more, and I think in today's college landscape, I think coaches are taking advantage of it. I think you just have to find your niche in recruiting, and I think Coach Brownell's kind of found that and kind of struck gold with the transfer market, and it just seems to work. And so for David, I think it was a great fit, and I'm sure that he'll do quite well with the other guys there.
Sometimes in recruiting, like everything else, it's better to be lucky than good. And in this case, with his coach going to Vanderbilt, word was that's where he wanted to look first, and Valpo wouldn't let him go to Vanderbilt. What was that situation like for David? And did he become very frustrated with the process as he waited to see what was going to happen with Vandy? Would he have gone to Vandy if given that opportunity?
Well, he was very frustrated, and as was his family back home. Bryce Drew recruited him to Valpo, and obviously is no longer there. By NCAA rules, they were not allowed to have contact with either him or me, but we all knew had he had that opportunity, I certainly think there was a great possibility that he may have went to Vanderbilt. And it's not a knock on Clemson or anybody else. It's just relationship with a coach over a period of 2 years. You have success with them, and it's logical that you feel like, hey, it worked for me the first time. It'll work for me again. And I don't want to say unfortunately it never happened, but I do think that it was really unfair that he didn't have that option to at least explore. Whether or not he would have went there, nobody knows for certain. But the most important thing is that he ended up on his feet in a great place, in a place where I think the culture and the environment is going to fit him really well. And we couldn't really control what the Valpo president, athletic director, what they were going to do, and we just had to do the best we could under the circumstances.
All right, last, we'll let you go. Talking with David Maravilla from Don Bosco Prep in Indiana. In this year off for David, what would you advise him to concentrate on in his game so that when he's eligible the next year, he'll be ready to go full-time and big-time in the ACC?
Continue to develop his three. He's a great driver, finisher, creator. He shot the ball. He was shooting the ball upwards in the 40s, and then he had a couple ankle injuries that really hindered his progress through the year. But that's one thing I think the sit-out year will definitely allow him to work on, and then also just to continue to gain strength. He is an explosive athlete, but I think playing in the ACC every game, he's going to be, having to finish against bigger, stronger guys. And so I think an added 10, 12 pounds of muscle will go a long ways for him for next year.
Well, I tell you, Brad Brownell continues to add talent to the roster. Just have to be patient and wait for these guys to be eligible. And the Tigers are going to put a heck of a team on the floor, no doubt about it, with the people he's adding. Coach, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it, and have yourself a great evening.
Thank you. Appreciate the call.
You got it, sir. All right, David Maravilla from Don Bosco Prep, Crown Point, Indiana, just outside of Chicago. And, Pro, I got to believe, too, that with Brad Brownell's roots in Indiana and in that part of the country, they know him well. He knows that program well, probably the coaches well. It was a good fit. They caught the break when the Vandy roadblock was put up for the kid, and it was just a matter then of getting him down to campus and getting to know each other a little bit better.
Well, that's what recruiting is all about, especially in basketball these days with the transfers. And I think probably what happens when you get a transfer, hopefully you're getting a more mature player as far as knowing that they have to deal with the things outside of basketball. And that's the key. Also, he will have a mature team by the time all these transfers get together. And that's going to be a key for Clemson going forward, because even Brad Brownell, when you looked at his basketball team, there was a lot of that Indiana basketball, a lot of set plays or whatever, but you've seen him loosen up. And if his guys can play a run up and down style, which they did against Notre Dame and some other teams they upset last year, and yet not turn the ball over, he's going to let them go. And he's learning how to coach at this level, I think, as he's growing into the job at Clemson. And I'm anxious to see what the new refurbished John Coliseum has, because that's going to be another feather in his cap as far as recruiting down the stretch is concerned.
Yeah, you're exactly right. That can only help, no doubt about it. Okay, we'll hit a break. We'll come back with more sports talk from Atlanta, where they have the Super Bowl on the way, but not everybody's happy about it. We'll be right back. We are back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Good to have you with us tonight. Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, and the Professor Tom Hayes reminding you to hit a home run with Founders Federal Credit Union coming soon to Clemson. Founders Clemson location will be open soon. For now, check out the 4 on-campus ATMs. Visit relaxjoinfounders.com to see if you qualify for membership. The SEC Big 12 Challenge games were announced today. USC not involved. USC, Mississippi State, Alabama, and Missouri, the 4 SEC teams not playing on January 28th in this humongous basketball event. So they will pair up against one another in conference games. There'll be 2 conference games. Don't know which one USC will play, but it will be one of those 3 opponents. But the pairings for the SEC Big 12 Challenge will have Texas at Georgia, Baylor at Ole Miss. Now, Kansas at Kentucky, of course, that's worth the price of admission. Texas A&M at West Virginia should be pretty good. Florida at Oklahoma, that's good. Iowa State at Vandy. Kansas State at Tennessee. Arkansas at Oklahoma State. Auburn at TCU. And LSU at Texas Tech. Guys, I think South Carolina gets back into this thing next year, right? They were left out the last 2 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they had an opportunity to play in it last year, but they were going to put them on the road. And Frank Martin said, if you're going to put us on the road, we don't want any part of it. If you give us a home game, we'll do it. I don't know what the problem is with setting up South Carolina versus Kansas State. I would have done that 3 years ago. I mean, set that up tomorrow.
Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea. I'm sure that Frank wouldn't mind a shot at his old school, but maybe next year when they get around to pairing them up, they'll do that.
No, they'll pair them up with Oklahoma State.
Or South Carolina, Texas, so we can get Darren Horn back at Colonial Life Arena.
You would love that, wouldn't you?
So I'm sure he'd love a happy homecoming. Now, let me talk about these baseball projections for the NCAA tournament. Baseball America has it broken down this way. They have Miami as the number 1 national seed, followed by Texas A&M, Florida, Louisville, Mississippi State, USC, Texas Tech, and Virginia. In the USC regional, they've got Wilmington 2, Georgia Tech 3, and Kennesaw State 4. They also have Clemson hosting a regional with Vanderbilt, Southeastern Louisiana, and Mercer. And they've got the Columbia Regional and the Clemson Regional matched up for the Super Regional. So you could have, by their arrangement here, you could have a USC Clemson Super Regional. They also have Coastal Carolina as a host and a number 1 seed with TCU, Wake Forest, and Wright State in that field. Now, that is by Baseball America. D1 Baseball, they have the Gamecocks as the number 7 national seed with Kennesaw, Coastal, and Duke in that regional. They don't have Coastal hosting. They, too, have Clemson hosting with Pepperdine, Oklahoma State, and Michigan. So that is the view of D1 baseball. Who knows, which one's going to be accurate, if any. I do believe that Coastal's going to host because, barring a complete collapse, they should run through the Big South tournament. Their record is so good. Their facility is excellent for hosting. They've done all you need to do to host a regional. I fully believe that Coastal's going to host. I fully believe South Carolina's going to host. I don't know yet about Clemson because I think they're on that bubble host-wise. People are kind of caught up in the way they finished the regular season. They did go up and take care of business against Notre Dame, but now they've got Virginia and Louisville coming up. I think if they win one of those games, that should probably do it for them as a host. Win one of those games against a marquee team like that, Virginia, Louisville, 2 teams that are considered national seeds. Win one of those games, K-Mac, I think they're going to host.
Yeah, I think so too. If they win 2, they're definitely hosting. And if Clemson, let's say they get hot. Let's say the Tigers find a way. Let's do the best case scenario, and they end up to the championship game. Let's say Clemson wins it. Could Clemson be a top 8 national seed?
No.
No?
No.
I don't know. I mean, you look at their RPI, which is already top 10, right? Top 10, top 12.
Yep.
They would have, let's see, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42 wins, a top 10 RPI. They would be in the top 8 in the polls, but they'd be right there. I mean, they would be right there.
The reason why I say that has nothing to do with Clemson. This particular year, the Southeast has dominated ACC, SEC, and it just becomes a numbers game, and I think they'll be crowded out by more ACC, SEC teams and then wanting to place a regional somewhere else, a national seed somewhere else.
Okay, time for some recruiting knowledge here on a Tuesday night. K-Mac, how is your recruiting knowledge? Would you say that your recruiting knowledge is high, medium, or low?
Yeah, on that, like the little, the old school terror alert chart that they used to have, I would call it low.
Low, yeah.
The threat is low.
Well, in recruiting knowledge, I would say that ignorance is bliss.
Ooh, well put, my friend. Well put.
All right, busy day for Brett Johnson, the defensive end up at Pendleton. He was offered by Michigan State and by Tennessee. Michigan today offered 2019 defensive end Zach Pickens of TL Hanna. Running back DeAndre Swift of Philadelphia is preparing to release a top 5. Hasn't happened yet, but he's let us know it's coming. Clemson, USC are among his offers, and the Tigers have been very active throughout the process with him. Wren quarterback Jay Urich was offered by Duke his second Power 5 conference offer along with USC. He's set to announce a commitment at his school 3:30 on Friday. USC offered defensive end Jalen Twyman of Washington, D.C. Defensive end Latrell Bumpus of Savannah, Tennessee, offered by Clemson. USC offered linebacker running back Bruce Jordan Swilling of New Orleans. That's Pat's son. And they've also offered his half-brother, Swilling, who also is in New Orleans, goes to the same school. Defensive back Tavin Jackson of Tallahassee has a top list of USC, Auburn, Mississippi State, UCF, Oregon State, Memphis, and Indiana. A little bit more on J.C. Jackson. A few more quotes from his coach in the secondary, Isaac Shipp. He tells us in talking about Jackson as a player, he said, quote, he has size, speed, technique, and good football IQ. He definitely will be an immediate, huge impact player on any team in the nation. He's an NFL guy as long as he stays healthy. One of the best I've had the honor to have coached. Of course, now, he is looking at South Carolina, favoring South Carolina right now. Maryland, Miami, and South Florida also in the hunt. And Coach Shipp said, quote, we encourage him to take trips to try to get a feel for the coaches and players they could be going to war with on the field. I told JC at the end of the day, it's up to you and your family. Pray about it. The programs that offered have quality coaches that have played and been successful in college and the pros, so he can't really go wrong, end quote. And again, he gets out in mid-June, so we should know something then, if not sooner. In basketball, USC has an offer out to 2018 combo guard 6'2" Eric Ayala, Putnam Science in Connecticut. Other offers include St. John's, Cincinnati, Temple, Southern Cal, Temple, Penn State, VCU, St. Joseph's, and LaSalle. And if you missed it earlier, he also has an offer from Temple. All right, there you go. Recruiting knowledge, top of the hour break. Jerry Myers and more coming up, hour 2.
Live from Columbia, this is Sports Talk on the South Carolina Radio Network. Be a part of tonight's show. Call us at 800-956-7266 or email talkback@sportstalksc.com. Now, here are your hosts for Sports Talk, Phil Kornbluth, McCrary, and Tom Hayes.
Okay, we are back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornbluth, Kevin McCrary, Professor Tom Hayes, and Jerry Myers coming up in a couple of minutes, the USC baseball coach right here, what he has to say about starting Clark Schmidt tomorrow against Ole Miss and the plan for facing that Ole Miss lineup this time around. The USC pitchers did an excellent job in the sweep earlier in the year at Oxford, but can you beat 4 times in a row, especially a really good team like Ole Miss? Kentucky and Alabama. Alabama has taken a 3-1 lead on Kentucky in that elimination game in the top of the 5th inning. And let's see, also going on, it's Radford and Coastal. Radford and Coastal scoreless in the top of the 5th inning at the Big South tournament over in Lexington. I bet you they're having a big time with that tournament over in Lexington. A couple of things to talk about, too, guys, as we move forward. Jerron Blossom game. Tomorrow's the deadline, midnight tomorrow, for guys who have their name in the NBA draft to take the name out if they want to stay in college. Now, the Clemson Insider wrote yesterday that Clemson plans to have a press conference tomorrow with Jerron to announce his decision. I'm thinking he's staying. What are y'all thinking?
Well, the longer it goes on and kind of following his tweets over the past 48 hours or so, I was initially thinking he was leaving. But, yeah, I think he might be returning to school as well.
That'd be interesting to me because on the other side, if I'm not mistaken, he redshirted because of the a broken leg he had going in high school. So he redshirted that year. So he is, shall we say, a little bit older than your average junior with that coming back. So I think he's torn between that and anything else. Do I want to spend another year, which would be 5 years out of high school before I go to the NBA? And whether we like it or not, it freaks me out when some scouts will knock a kid because he's older than the other guy that's coming out a certain year, which is
you
want
to take a 19-year-old who's going to flame out in 3 years,
exactly.
Or have a guy. And Blossom game, he performed pretty well in the NBA combines, but he might be thinking, hey, I come back. Clemson should be a really good team next year, especially if he comes back. They could be a tournament team, should be a tournament team. I think that's a fair thing to say. If he plays like he did last year again, he could be a lottery pick. This is a guy that could go in the first 13, 14 picks of the draft.
That's ability, yes. Because anytime you drop below that number, Corn, you're in for it. Unless you just sneak up on people, you're going to be making a lot of quick plane trips from the D-League back up.
He's not a first-rounder this year. He could be a first-rounder next year. I don't think he is this year.
All right. We'll keep a close watch out on that after the break. USC pitching coach Jerry Myers joining us from Hoover here on Sports Talk. we're back. Sports Talk South Carolina Radio Network. Phil Kornblut, Kevin McCrary, the professor, Tom Hayes, all with you here. Busy night on the program, busy night in baseball all around the country as we try to keep up with all the scores. A reminder, we're brought to you by Future Scholars Palmetto Baby Grant Program. May 29th, a good day to have a baby. That's 529 Day. All babies born May 29th eligible to receive a $529 college savings grant. To apply, visit scpalmettobaby.com. Future Scholar is administered by the Office of State Treasurer Curtis Loftus. Sunday is also a nice day to hoist the SEC Tournament Baseball Championship Trophy. I'm sure Jerry Myers would love to get his fingertips on that in a few days as the Gamecock pitching coach joins us now from Hoover. Coach, how are you? Thank you for joining us.
I'm doing well, thanks.
You have decided to go with Clark Schmidt in the opener for you guys tomorrow against Ole Miss. Was it a pretty easy decision by you guys to go with your number one starter?
Yeah, it was pretty easy. Clark's coming off a weekend where, it's pushing up one day, doing that the previous week as well. It's not a big push. It's a lot tougher, like some of the other teams that went today that pushed their guys up as many as 1 or 2 days extra on top of that. So he's feeling good, and the amount of work and everything that he does in between starts was able to do, and feels like he's ready to go. So it wasn't a tough decision at all.
What did you think of Ole Miss today at the plate against Georgia? They only managed 6 hits. What did you think of Georgia's approach to them from the mound standpoint? And did you learn anything that you'll apply in the game tomorrow?
Well, yeah, we watched today's game as well, and we'll watch. I've already started to watch their last weekend series. We'll take a look at the starting pitcher that we saw earlier in the year, Parkinson, that'll go against us, and we'll just try to get a little bit of a better feel for where they are in the last few weekends, and who's hot and who's swung the bat well maybe in the last 8 or 10 games, and as opposed to who was hot swinging the bat earlier in the year. So at this point in time, there's certain guys in the lineup that might be locked in more than others, or they're bats more often than others, and we'll just try to key in on them and from a pitching standpoint, really try to pitch Clark's game and see if he can get off to a good start.
Well, you guys pitched extremely well when you swept them earlier in the season, and Clark got you guys off to an excellent start in the series. What did he show you that time around against Ole Miss, and how much do you rely on that performance in preparing to go?
Well, we'll look at it. I mean, just because you went maybe, against the different parts of their lineup a certain way, and it was successful, doesn't mean it's going to work again. And but some of the staples to pitching in general and getting ahead and trying to get a good mix of pitches and moving his fastball in and out, and establishing both sides of the plate with his fastball is always the key. And hopefully he can get going tomorrow and really settle in and throw his game.
Compare how you feel about your pitching staff today to back then at the very beginning of the season, especially the development of Reed Scott to give you that that third steady out of the bullpen. Do you feel much different about the group now compared to the beginning of the season?
Yeah, I guess you feel like, after, outings and going through the rigorous schedule of the SEC and who's been out there, you have a little bit better idea with the workload of some of the relievers and how they've done and how they've matched up. And Reed Scott, you're exactly right. He's been a big plus to not just, a short bullpen guy, but to be able to come in and get us out of some jams like he has. And sometimes he's only come in for a couple outs and key gotten us out of some key jams, and sometimes he stayed in there a little longer and helped us bridge to one of the guys that've been going later in the game, like Reagan and Tyler Johnson have.
So at this point, we assume that you go with Clark tomorrow, and you keep on in the tournament. You're going to play Thursday at one point or another. You go with your regular rotation. Here 3 days, you go through your normal regular 3 starters.
Yeah, that's the plan. I mean, at this point in time, Braden Webb's scheduled to go game 2. I mean, he wouldn't relieve when you get to a situation if you're in a limit day or something like that. If you have a loss in the tournament, then it's all hands on deck. But at this point in time, we'll line up, our 3 starters like we have in the past and in the past weekends, and see where we're at with our bullpen as well, and make decisions based on that. Just trying to win one game at a time.
Yeah. Is there anybody that you try to hold out from using out of the bullpen in case you're there for that 4th game and you need that 4th starter? I'm thinking about a Taylor Widener, for example. Is it just a matter of you're going to use whoever you need to use to win that particular day?
Yeah, you're right. I think it plays into it maybe when you get to that point where you go, okay, we're at this point in time, we're going to need another starter going into tomorrow. It may affect what we plan in terms of game on a particular day out of the bullpen, and who's the freshest, who's been used already. As Taylor Widener is thrown in game 1, and we're going into game 4, and that kind of thing, and where was his pitch count? And so, there's some other guys that could start as well, and Coley Bowers has some starts under his belt and has some innings. There'll be some guys at that point in time. Hopefully, we can get there, and we'll at that point in time, you just try to game plan our bullpen according to winning the game, but also maybe trying to look at who could be potential starters if we advance.
All right, very good. Anybody dealing with any arm issues, sore arms, anything like that that's going to limit anybody this weekend?
No, right now we're feeling pretty good coming off the weekend. Most guys are bouncing back from their pitch counts that came in and relieved over the weekend. Tyler Johnson, threw on all 3 games and got 3 saves that he'll, with the last couple days recovery, should be ready to go again tomorrow. His pitch counts weren't excessive, but he did throw 3 days in a row. So we were wanting him to bounce back and preferably play on Wednesday like we were able to do, and not have to try to bring back a couple of those guys off the weekend out of the bullpen in the Tuesday format. So that part's worked out well. Taylor Widener's longer stint that he had in game 3 over the weekend, he's bouncing back. He's probably the one that might need an extra day, but should be available out of the pen again tomorrow for us.
All right. Anything about the park today? Was the ball carrying any different than in the past, or just pretty much the same you've experienced there over the years?
It looks about the same. A couple of balls hit pretty well. The gaps are big. It's not a great hitter's ballpark in general, even though they brought the fences in back a few years ago when they put the bullpens out in the outfield. That's made it a little smaller, but the ball in general doesn't carry well there, and there's some big gaps in the outfield. So, it can be a little bit of both. You got to play well in the outfield, but there hasn't been a lot of cheap home runs and that kind of thing. It's usually, unless the wind's blowing out, got to be a legitimate home run to be hit there, and seems like it played that way as well today. So we'll expect that again tomorrow.
Coach, as always, we appreciate the time. Good luck to you this week. We'll see you in Hoover, and thanks for joining us.
All right, sounds great. Thank you.
That is Jerry Myers, USC pitching coach, joining us here on Sports Talk. He's in Hoover. We'll be there tomorrow, and we'll be in Durham as well to cover the Tigers. Back in just a moment. Thanks again to Jerry Myers for being with us here on Sports Talk. See, this is what you just never know. Now there's still some time left. They're in the bottom of the 6th inning. Washington Radford is leading Coastal Carolina 2-0 in the first game of the Big South. Now, Coastal cannot afford to stub its toe because of the hosting opportunities. If they can just, as Coach Gilmore told us last time we talked to him last week, he feels like they've just got to win out. Then they went out and lost a game, but then they won the rest of them, and they don't need to be opening up here in the losers bracket of the Big South tournament. So we'll see if they've got a rally in them as they trail Radford right now 2-0. Alabama continues to lead Kentucky 3-1, bottom of the 6th. Tennessee, LSU coming up later. Missouri loses to Vanderbilt 7-0. But what an awful athletic year for Missouri. If you're a Missouri Tiger fan, K-Mac, you just want to shoot yourself. I mean, it can't get much worse than it was this year for the Missouri athletic program on and off the playing field.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about what went right for them. I mean, they had controversies in pretty much every sport, in every season anyway. Not every sport, obviously, but you had a controversy with the football team, and then the coach ended up retiring abruptly. And then you had the basketball team
hit rock bottom,
and they hit NCAA sanctions. A softball team, they ran into a controversy, and the players revolted and protested, and then they blew a big lead against South Carolina in the SEC tournament. It's been a pretty rough sports year for Mizzou, no question about it.
As they say, it's always darkest before the dawn, and the people in Mizzou are just
well, they
waiting.
did win 2 SEC Eastern Division titles in years 2 and 3 in the league, so maybe this was their,
there's a penance.
Yeah, it was really good, and now they're paying for that.
They're paying for it. They got into the league and felt happy and sassy and fat early on, and their enrollment going down as well because of the protests they've had. So.
ACC games today. These are single nation play-in games. Georgia Tech over Boston College 6-0, and Wake Forest beat Duke 4-3. Southern Conference play-in game today. The Citadel wins in 11. Make that this says 10, but their story I think said 11. Anyway, they won an extra inning on a RBI triple to win it 3-2 over VMI to advance to the main bracket of the Southern Conference tournament. No, I'm wrong. It's the 10th inning. They won the 10th inning up at Fluor Field. So Fred Jordan and the Bulldogs live to play another day. Dabo, we'll talk about this in a little bit. Showtime, this is according to the Clemson Insider, Showtime approached Dabo Swinney about doing a behind-the-scenes let's follow the Tigers sort of thing during their season like they did with Notre Dame football last year. Remember that? Mm-hmm. And Dabo apparently turned down the opportunity because he wants the team focused on winning a national championship. Mm-hmm. They write that talking with some folks at Notre Dame, it sounded like the show took a lot of time for the staff in the athletic department. It may have been a distraction at times for the players and coaches. So Dabo's saying, no, to Showtime. No time for Showtime with Dabo. We'll be right back. We are back. Sports Talk, South Carolina Radio Network. We remind you to relax on and off the field, on and off the track with Founders Federal Credit Union, located in the heart of USC. Founders Russell House location available to help you with all your financial needs. Visits, relax, join founders.com to see if you qualify for membership. Let's talk a little NASCAR here on this Tuesday night, as we do after a big weekend of racing. We welcome in Chip Weil, president of Darlington and Daytona, wearing the double hats. Okay, so, you know, it was so messed up and mixed up. The guys in the TV booth didn't know what was going on Saturday night, but you know what? It did make for some very interesting moments, and the racing, the last 10 laps was as good as you could ever want, I imagine, except for no big pileups, but it was great racing.
Yeah, no question. I think that they added a little bit of or took away a little bit of downforce off the cars over the weekend to see how it would work in the non-points race. I thought it went really well. They had obviously an untimely caution that kind of confused everybody a bit, but all in all, the race on Saturday night is all about the fans. That's why we do it, and I thought that certainly everybody got their money's worth.
Yeah. How about the way things finished up? I mean, that last restart, we had them 3-4 wide, and once again, you had Lawson and Logano battling until Logano. I guess he was he on the fresher tires? Is that why he was able to pull away?
Yeah, tires certainly made a difference all night long. I think you'll see that again this weekend when we go back for the Coca-Cola 600, that tires are going to play a factor. I think what people did on Saturday is they certainly paid attention to that last 13-lap shootout to see if tires really made a difference, and it looked like it did. So I think fresh rubber certainly is going to be the way to go if there is a late race caution this Sunday night. Okay.
What else did you pick up from the weekend at Charlotte? Anything materialize out of the garage areas of note that's going to impact the teams moving forward?
Well, I thought Goodyear brought a really nice tire to the table, and I thought that the driver did a nice job putting on a great show. And, if you're a race fan, this coming Sunday is your Super Bowl. You can wake up and watch Monaco, one of the most famous F1 races of the year, and then flip over to Indy 500, the 100th running of Indy 500 at noon, and then finish the day off with the longest NASCAR race of the season in the Coke 600. I think it's a great day of racing for anybody who's a motorsports enthusiast. I think certainly Sunday night under the lights in Charlotte's going to be a really great event. And I think that there'll be a lot of side-by-side racing. I think that the cars that are good early in the daytime are certainly going to need to build a ton of adjustability into their car in order to be successful, because when the sun goes down, the cars certainly change the way they handle dramatically. And I think that's going to be critical to the success of the drivers and the teams, is building that adjustability into the car. So critical that these guys don't focus on short runs, that they focus on the long runs and being able to build a ton of adjustability into their race car.
Yeah, from your experience with the teams over the years, that extra 100 miles built into this race, what kind of toll does that take on man and machine?
A ton. I mean, you'll see a lot of drivers, the last 100 laps fall out of the seat, so to speak, or the last 100 miles, excuse me. People are like, what's an extra 100 miles? Well, when you've been racing since 5 o'clock in the afternoon and it's 11 o'clock and you're still behind the wheel racing, at 180, 190 miles an hour, it takes a toll. I think guys that are in really good physical condition, like Jimmy Johnson, that's why they excel at the Coke 600, because they focus so much time and effort on physical fitness. And that's why it pays dividends. These long races are cut out, and they gotta be on their game. So I think certainly Sunday night's going to play to the advantage of the guys that do a lot of running, do a lot of biking, do a lot of cardio, really focus a lot of time and effort on the health. So it's tough on the crews too, Phil, because they got to stay focused and on their game for an additional hour and a half. So you're talking a 4.5 to 5 hour race, and that takes a toll on you too, knowing that you have to be ready for 5 hours for anything.
Yeah. Do you think that moving forward in the years to come, the 600 miles is still safe? There's been talk, in some circles about shortening that because not from a racing standpoint, or it's because of the television audience. They say they can't focus on it that long.
Well, I mean, one race a year, it being 600 miles certainly works. I think it differentiates the two events in Charlotte. One being obviously a lot longer, and it is all about endurance. I mean, it's a good storylines coming out of the weekend with who did well, who did not. But we all struggle with the TV audience and trying to balance that with what the core product was. And the Coke 600 has been a staple in our sport for so long. I never see it really going away.
Well, I hope you're right. I hope that's the case. Let me ask you, for a guy who's living in motorsports, the way that the Memorial Day weekend has evolved and is dominated for the most point by two things, racing and baseball. That's what's going on, maybe a little NBA playoffs. But don't you feel like racing in America on that weekend, and especially on that Sunday, makes its mark and really maybe wins over new fans every year who are turned on by Indy and who are turned on by the 600?
Well, I think it's certainly two marquee events on the schedule. You look at the Indy 500, the biggest IndyCar race or biggest open wheel race in the United States, and then the longest NASCAR race. It really is, in my opinion, one of the biggest races of the year. If you're going to look at 4 or 5 tentpole races that really we all use to measure the season, obviously the Daytona 500, the Coke 600, the Brickyard 400, and then the Bojangles Southern 500. Those are the 4 kind of marquee tentpole races, and I think they do garner a bigger audience because there is so much visibility around them. So, yeah, I think it's certainly a great opportunity this weekend for us to try to, engage a new fan and then get them introduced to the sport, because there is some really compelling storylines, and Charlotte always puts on a really good show.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, so what's happening at Darlington now with you and your position at Daytona? You still holding forward at Darlington or going back and forth? What's going on?
Yeah, I'm here today. In fact, we are filming a Geico TV commercial. So Casey Mears is here tonight. We'll be here till 3 a.m. tonight shooting a commercial. And then headed back down to Daytona tomorrow because we have the Country 500, a 3-day country music festival this weekend down in Daytona over Memorial Day weekend. So no rest for the weary, I tell you. I've burned up Highway 95 the last 3 weeks, but this is it's such an honor to be a part of the Daytona team and still be engaged and involved here in Darlington. There's going to be some exciting news coming out on the race team front this week. More people are unveiling their paint schemes for Darlington. And I tell you, this year's just shaping up to be certainly bigger and better than last year. I thought that could happen.
Yeah, boy, sounds like it. Okay, Chip, thank you, sir. Enjoy your weekend with country music. We'll enjoy our racing, and we'll talk to you next week.
All right, Phil. Thank you, sir. See you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, Chip Weil, president of Darlington. At least for now, they have not named his replacement just yet. So I guess he's like Obama. He's just waiting to serve out his term and waiting for the next guy to come into office, except he gets to become president somewhere else. Like, you can't go become president of another
I'm
country.
going to throw my name in the mix. Make Darlington great again. Let's do this. I will replace.
Well, he's wearing
Darlington already is pretty
Do you have a baseball cap? Have you got it on a baseball cap that you can wear around? Nice red color cap?
Order one of those up right away.
Here's what I suggest for Chip. Since he's been burning up I-95, he ought to enter the Coca-Cola 600. Because maybe he could drive it now.
He's got the miles on the he's got the miles on the car to prove it, no doubt. Okay, we'll be right back. More sports talk in a moment. We return to Sports Talk on a Tuesday night, presented by South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff more at scsoybeans.org. Pork powered by soy. Going to hear from Will Muschamp, who spoke down in Charleston a little while ago. Bring you some of those comments momentarily. You've heard us talk a lot here recently about the big event coming up on Sunday, especially if you are about to have a baby. It's 529 Day on Sunday. Here to tell us more about it, the man, the myth, the mystery, the state treasurer, Curtis Loftus.
Oh, man, you're in it tonight, aren't you? You put me between soybeans and the Carolina head football coach. I just don't know how I feel about that.
Perfect timing.
It's nice to talk to you, Phil. Before I mentioned the 529 program, I want to mention I thank you very much for being good corporate citizens and letting us come on here and talk about something that's important to a whole lot of us. There are 88,000 people already in South Carolina who are in the college savings program. And, you know, the college savings program is just the best way to save for college. Future Scholars 529 program allows you to save in a tax advantage way. You put money in the account, it's tax advantage. It grows, tax advantage. And when you take it out for approved expenses, it's tax advantage. But we have a little fun this time of year. And on May the 29th, 529, if you have a baby born that day, you get a privately funded $529 Palmetto Baby Grant. And we put it in the 29 savings account for you. Isn't that great?
I think it's fantastic. I'm not in the baby making business anymore, but if I were, I would think about having one on May 29th. Now, let me ask you this: $529, you put it in that account when the kid is born, and what can it grow to?
Well, at 7.5%, which is very reasonable. 7.5%, that alone is over $2,000. But, the point is we get it started for you. We like everything else. It's a lot of fun because every single man in the audience right now is thinking, when is 8.5 months before 529? They get in their calendars. They're making their arrangements to start lobbying for the $529 check next year. But for this year, you start that program. You and your grandparents, your cousins, your aunts and uncles, and instead of giving a kid a blue sweater at Christmas time, you give them a check for their 529 account. We all know what it costs to go to college. My goodness, it's very expensive. So if we can help people get there, it's a great way. And the 529 program, the Future Scholars 529 College Savings Plan, is just the best way to save for college. And we're proud to have it. We like this fun little way to mark.
I think it's a great idea, perfect way to tie it in. Do you know of many women who have taken advantage of 529, and the sole reason they had it on 529 was to take advantage of 529?
Well, we hear a lot of stories. We hear guys saying, "Hurry up, baby! It's May the 29th," and the woman, of course, has a little different thought about it. But we keep there'll be about 200 babies born this year, and I keep waiting for our first set of triplets or something like that. Wouldn't that be great? A set of triplets to start off. So it's just good. It's a fun way. It's a marketing campaign. The hospitals are great. These nurses and doctors on the maternity wards, they see a baby for a week or two and then the baby goes away. They want to make sure that the moms and dads know about this. They get them signed up. That way they know that through their college time, they'll have something to do with that baby. Not just deliver it, but they'll have a way to help that baby on his path.
Okay, so say you're, you got somebody who's listening tonight and they're due, and maybe they're going to go into labor. What do you tell them? Hold on for a few more days, or just go ahead?
That's it. Hey, listen, you're going to get us both in trouble here. I've done a few of these interviews, and we always get in trouble. But it is fun to think about. It's fun to kid. And for guys, it's all easy. We can say what we want to. Of course, the women have to do all the work. But last year, I remember going to Greenville Hospital. What a great hospital that is right there. We went in just a few hours after this lady. It was, highly educated lady, a chiropractor. She had that baby like an 8 o'clock, and we went in there with a TV camera about 12 o'clock. And you couldn't believe how composed she was and how the baby was sleeping and the husband was there. The hardened TV camera guy started crying. because when she started talking about, my baby's not a good start. We've got to finish this 5-3-9 plan out. We started when it's born, and we're going to make sure that this child can go to any accredited college, 2-year or 4-year, in the country. You don't have to stay here in Carolina. We'd love for you to be a Gamecock or a Tiger, but if you want to go to Harvard or Pepperdine, you just go. And so it's a great thing. And when I saw the cameraman, you're in the media business, you see those hardened camera guys start to tear up and shed a few tears about these stories. You know how great it is. And that's just what we want to talk about. Let's help our young ones be able to have the dream, that life of dreams that they want, and not just a life of college debt.
All right, Curtis, thank you so much. Best of luck with it. We'll be right back. All right, back for our final few minutes of Sports Talk, brought to you by South Carolina soybean farmers and their checkoff. Learn more at scsoybeans.org. Pork powered by soy. The Spurs Up Tour, the Boom Bus, rolled into Mount Pleasant this afternoon, I think for the final stop on the tour down the Charleston area. Will Muschamp and company there, the media there as well, and from GoGamecocks.com. Here is some of what Muschamp had to say. He was asked about the greetings he's been getting at these various stops.
It's been very, very positive. Everybody's been genuine and welcoming to myself, our families, our staff, their families. It's been really awesome. I've been overly impressed.
You've gotten to see pretty much every corner of the state. Yeah. Just which has been, I guess, the one that stood out the most?
It's been good for me, just from the standpoint of seeing everybody and seeing as many people we can. But I look forward to this and seeing our fan base and appreciating them for their support of South Carolina.
How much have you heard about how excited people are here to see the Boom Bus throughout the state?
That's good. That's good. Good looking guy on there, huh? Yeah. But they trimmed me down about 10 pounds. That's a good thing.
Photoshop's good for that.
No doubt. But no, it's been again. Our marketing people came up with that. It's a great idea. Generate a little more enthusiasm, which our fans are enthusiastic. I can tell you that. So it's been fun.
With Connor Mitchell, it's simply a matter of just he wasn't comfortable with the fit, with the type of offense you want to run. Maybe go somewhere else and play more his skills.
Again, Connor's a good young man, and we wish him all the luck.
Did he talk to you before making the decision to transfer?
Mm-hmm. We talked several to me. Wish him all luck in the world.
Well, looking at the schedule with UMass on there's been some talk lately about matching basketball and football games on the schedule. Was that something that you guys had an agreement with?
No, again, those games are agreed 4 and 5 years out. Ray and Charles Waddell have had a hard time with scheduling because up until I believe it was last spring, the SEC was still talking about a 9-game schedule. So we've been on hold past 18 and beyond of scheduling games out. So I don't know that conversation has happened. I don't know that, but we're having a hard time with scheduling right now because of that, because people fill up 4 and 5 years out. And so we're still trying to get things in 18 done.
Yeah, I think they're running out of things to ask old Muschamp because they have followed him every step along the way. I know one thing he's not going to miss. He's not going to miss looking over his shoulder and seeing Scott Hood's mug right next in his face. I can promise you that.
And the boom bus, he retired. I think it's going back to Florence where it lives permanently, from what I'm told.
Coastal Carolina has come back, top of the 7th, jumps up 3-2. And did I hear that Jackie Bradley Jr. got another hit?
Yes, first time at bat in the 2nd inning, a base hit, so he's extended his hitting streak to 28 games.
Very good. Thank you, guys. Thanks to our friends at WKDK in Newberry for their technical assistance with our broadcast. Thank you, Carson. Everybody have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow night from Hoover.